Welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about promissory notes and deeds of trust. We all try to buy, sell, and trade real estate, and we always see something that we think may be a good deal. We may be able to make it work. But one of the big questions is always, how do I get financing? Where can I get financing? What is the interest rate? How hard is it going to be to get financing? And so today the show is kind of twofold. We'll talk about owner financing and owner carry, and as well as versus lender financing like FHA, VA, HUD, or your local bank. They all charge different rates, but they're all close to the same depending on the property that you're trying to buy. But I like, in one tool in my toolbox, I like promissory notes and deeds of trust. I like to have the owner finance the property. And when the owner finances the property, you have the same due diligence, the same contracting. You can make any deal that you want to make with the owner. And of course, there's specific uses would make your deal a little different. If you're a homeowner, of course, you're trying to get the lowest price and the lowest rate, and you want to be sure the house is suitable. And you also want to do your due diligence. The same if you're an investor, you're going to do the same process. And so one thing that is strikingly similar about every deal is if you have financing, then you are going to sign a promissory note, usually secured by a deed of trust or a mortgage, and that depends on which state you're in. So if you're looking to buy a piece of property, I would start with owner financing. I would do a search for owner financing. Who has owner financing? Who is offering that? And of course, you also have to have, in most cases, a down payment. Down payments can be anything you and the owner want it to be. It's called equity, and you have a certain amount of equity. And a lot of times we call this equity marketing. And that's because if you've got a vacant lot and you would like to trade that for a rental unit, then if that lot's worth $40,000, then you can use that as equity to offset the down payment in cash. But one thing to be clear is most everybody, unless you have a tax problem, likes cash. Cash is number one. But in the owner financing or the seller financing world, there's billions of dollars that are bought, sold, and traded in equity. And also another side to owner financing, which is a side we hardly ever look at, is the promissory note and the deed of trust. And what I like is that deed of trust is saleable. You can sell it, you can trade it, you can create your own note, you can create a deed of trust. So anything that you can do with property, you can do with a note and a deed of trust. Let's say that you're an owner and you're financing the property for somebody, could be an investor or a homeowner, and you are financing $100,000 at 4.5% or 5% interest. And you can make the amortization anything that you can agree on, 10, 15, 20, or 30 years, depending on the property. And so it's a very good vehicle to use in being able to buy property, and that's promissory note and deed of trust. But that promissory note and deed of trust has a value. And for investors that don't want to own the property, they don't want to deal with tenants and toilets and trash, the 3 T's that we talk about, then the promissory note secured by a deed of trust is a very good way to go. And you can invest in that, and I guarantee you that your rate of return is just about as good as it's ever going to get, because you have the satisfaction of knowing that your payment's going to be made every month. Most times you're usually in first position. You usually have what we call protective equity. So protective equity is very important. The due diligence of the buyer is very important. The due diligence of the property, the collateral, is very important. So you have to do all your due diligence. But buying, selling, and trading promissory notes is a very good way to go. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to share an email with you. So let's look at that email. I have a seasoned note I'm looking to sell. And here's how this lady sold the property, and she's got a promissory note and a deed of trust that she wants to sell. So the title of this show is, What is that note worth? And I've got depends on the back end of that title, and these notes come up for sale. So this lady sold a house for $100,000. The buyer put down $9,000. That's 9%. It's not a very good down payment, and it may not be very bad either. But here's some good things about the note. The sale took place in 2017, about May of 2017. And she financed $91,000 at 4.75%. And the payment is $585.75 a month, and for 242 months. That's a little bit unusual, but not bad at all. 20 years plus 2 months. And the loan, one really good thing, is being serviced by a title company. In other words, they keep track of the payments, they keep track of the principal and the interest and the remaining balance. And that's very important. Probably one of the largest arguments that I see in owner financing and seller carry is when it comes to pay off the property, there can often be a dispute about the remaining balance, the balance that's owed, because of the way people calculate principal and interest, or missed payments or payments that didn't get recorded or something. So it's best to have a third party service that note, keep track of all those payments, and the buyer and the seller pay that fee every month. That's a very good investment. And she says that this property is secured by a deed of trust, and it has a promissory note. One very good thing about this note is now it's called a seasoned note. In other words, there's 31 payments that have been made. So we're kind of comfortable that the buyer has made 31 payments, and you would want to do your due diligence and check the buyer out. Even though they've made 31 payments, you want to know if they're on time, if they're always late, if their payments are short a few dollars, and it gives you a good indication of how secure or how good that note is. Now, one of the big things that I hear a lot on notes and deeds of trust is they don't want to go out 20 years. They don't want to finance a property 20 years for somebody. 5 years or 10 years is much more acceptable. But with the Dodd-Frank rules and regulations, there's ways that you don't have to go out 20 or 30 years, but you need to talk to an attorney about that if the property is owner occupied. And there's a big difference between owner occupied and investors' property. And we're talking about investors' property. And you're investing in this note, but one of the things about due diligence is you want to make sure that this note was Dodd-Frank certified. In other words, it has some measure of qualification of the buyer. And so the note, the property, when they sold it, it could be exempt, and you would need to know that. So there's things that you need to know in your due diligence. But today, we're not going to talk about due diligence very much. We want to talk about, what is this note worth? So we know that 31 payments have been made. There's 211 payments left. Now I'm going to rephrase that question just a little bit, and I'm going to say, what would you pay for the right to receive $585.75 a month? Now, that cash flow, that stream of income has a value. And this lady, she was comfortable with 4.75%. That's a very good rate for a homeowner. It's not such a good rate for an investor. But she didn't put in this email what she would take for this note. So since there is not an asking price on the note, it's up to you to decide what would you pay for the right to receive $585.75 a month. I mean, that's a pretty good cash flow. If you had 10 of these, that's $5,800 a month. So buying and selling notes to generate an annuity or a cash flow every month is really good practice. To me, I like that better than actually owning the property in some instances. So I'm always on the lookout for good rental properties or cash flow properties or properties that I can buy and hold or buy and flip and make a profit. But I'm also very interested in buying and selling and trading promissory notes. And the fact that that's one of the things in your toolbox, it should always be in your toolbox. And so we deal with common sense investing. I mean, you look for the deal, you don't look for the property. Banks rent money all the time. That's what they do. And you make monthly payments, which is principal and interest, and they always want it back because they're looking for the same thing you're looking for, and that is the rate of return. And so when you're buying and selling promissory notes, we're looking at a rate of return that we expect to get if we're going to put our money out on the market to try to make a profit. So what would you pay to receive $585.75 a month? What is that? So let's go over to my screen share and let's look at the calculator that I've got. This is the 10B2 calculator, and we're going to use these first 5 keys up here on the top. The first one, the N, is your amortization period. This happens to be 242 months. The interest rate per year, interest rate is usually, if you put 12 in as the periods of per year, which is the payments per year, then it's going to divide your rate by 12. And also present value or principal value, either one, they're both the same, and your payment. And then you have future value. If you say, well, what are they going to owe me in 5 years? What are they going to owe in 10 years? How long does it take to pay this off? What is month number 15 look like on the amortization schedule? What is the principal balance that's left? And so these are the questions you can answer with those 5 keys. So, and one of these keys, either payment or PV, has to be positive. Of course, future value could be positive, but we don't have anything in future value. So let's recreate this. We're going to put 91,000 in present value, and we're going to put 4.75. And notice I just click on interest per year. It puts 4.75 in there. My payment, I'm going to say that this is 585.75. And the reason I'm doing it that way, 585.75. Change the sign, and that's the payment. And now that I've got the payment in there, I've got the principal value in there, I've got the interest rate in there, I want to see how many months that is. So 242 payments, and that's exactly what the email says, that it was 242 payments, that there are 31 payments that have been made. And so there's 211 payments left. So that worked out just fine. We know what the payments are, and now I could do an amortization schedule and I could see what the principal and interest is every month. And so let's just go, you hit the shift key, which is the gold key, and amort, and there's my principal and interest. If you kept this loan to maturity, which is 242 months, they would have paid $141,751 for this piece of property, principal and interest. But let's go down here to month 31. It looks like there's a principal balance of $83,576.77. And that's what she has in her email. And UPB is unpaid principal balance. So she's got $83,576 that's left for this. So now I'm not buying a note that's worth $91,000. She's already picked up $9,000. There's been 31 payments left. So now I'm going to go in and put that principal value in here. So the principal value, let's see, she says that is $83,576.14. So I'm going to say 31. I'm going to do it this way. 31 in. That's how many payments have been left. Now, since she put that in on her email, I could put that in future value, but I'm going to calculate it so you can see how it's done. So I put in 31 payments and I just hit future value. Very similar to what she's got. I mean, the rounding error makes it off a few cents, but 83,576 is what the remaining balance is today after 31 payments. So I'm going to change that to a positive, and I'm going to hit principal value. So that's where we're going to start from. I'm going to clear out future value, put 0 in there, and I'm going to solve for the term that's left, which should come out to $211. So you see I've got 0 in future value. I've got the payment in as a negative. I've got the new principal balance of $83,000. I've got the interest rate that she is charging and the payments that have been made. But now I'm going to solve for how many are left. And there's 211 payments left. And so that corresponds to exactly what she said in her email. So the question is now, what do you require as a rate of return on your money? What is your discount rate? That's what it's called. Are you comfortable making 4.75% on your money? I mean, you're not even making 1% at a CD probably. Maybe a treasury bill, you might be making more. But what is your money worth to you? You might say 8%. I want 8. Well, she financed it at 4.75. So if you go up to 8%, that means you're going to have a discount on the value of her note. So what are you willing to loan your money at for a period of time? And that period of time is changing all the time. So what is your rate that you would like to get? So let's look at it this way. You can get the borrower, if they're qualified, can get a really good rate, anywhere from 3.75 to 4.75 through FHA and VA. Or you can go to a bank if you're an investor, and you can probably, for a private bank, you can probably get 5.5 to 6.5% interest rate. If you go to a hard money lender, you might be up to 9, 10, 11, 12, or even 15%, depends on how long do you want the money, what is the security for the money, and what position is the lender in when they make the loan. If you notice that banks and savings and loan and FHA and VA and all those people are in first position, and you want to be in first position. That's why when you loan your money, when you buy this note, you want to make sure in your due diligence that you're in first position. And the second thing that you want to know is what is your protective equity? In other words, what kind of skin in the game does the borrower have? How much money did they put into this deal? Because remember, you're their partner, you're just in first position on this piece of property. And so your amount of protective equity or down payment you got is going to translate into the security for the repayment of your funds. The best way to make money is to not lose it. Now, here's the strategy. The single best strategy for making money is not losing it. And that's what a fellow named Dan Ferris said. The single best strategy for making money is not losing. And that's why banks require collateral. That's why you would require collateral. That's why you would want to be in first position. That's why you would want to know what is your protective equity, or how much money has the borrower got into the deal so that you don't lose your money. And so that is very good advice. The best way to make money is to not lose money. So we've got this in here at 4.75, and the note, the face value of the note is $83,576. Now, if you're comfortable with 4.75, you could pay $83,000 for this note, and you'd make 4.75% on your money. But let's say that your rate is 8%. So we just click on 8. We put that in interest rate per year. And now we want to solve for present value. So if you said, well, my money is worth 8% to me because I can loan that out anywhere and make 8%. And truly you can. And so for me, I would pay $66,000 for the right to receive $585.75 a month. Okay. But the thing about this is that borrower may be one of those borrowers that buys a house or a building and stays there for the full 20 years. So do you want to have your money out there earning 8% for the next 20 years? That could happen. But in real life, most people will sell or refinance their house anywhere from ever 5 years to 8 or 9 years. And they may go 10 years. I mean, after 5 years, if you gave $66,000, the borrower still owes $83,000. And so if you went to the borrower and said, hey, if you pay me off, I will discount this note by $5,000 or $10,000. That may be a good option. So let's say that your rate is 8%, you'd pay $66,000 for this note. Well, my rate may be 12%. So at 12%, I would pay $51,000 for that note. Now, 12% is a good rate of return for an investor most of the time. Depends. It depends on your due diligence and your goal with your money and your goal with your investment strategy. And so if you were comfortable and the owner of the note was comfortable selling it at 12% so that your discount rate is 12%, you could pay $51,000 for that note and make 12% on your money. That's a good rate. Now, you could do a lot of things with this note at 12%. You could trade that note for another property. You could borrow against that note. You could sell 25 payments if you needed cash. So there's a lot of things that you can do with this note. And just remember that a note has almost all the flexibility that owning the physical property would have, except you don't have the management headaches of the property. So there's a lot of things about buying and selling and creating promissory notes and things that you can do with those notes, because that is an asset that you control. So let's say that your rate, you're not quite satisfied with 12%, even though that's a good rate. You know, you could do a lot with it, but you may want to sell this note and make a little bit of money on being the middleman, or you want to arbitrage this note. So let's say that 12% is a good rate, but I'm going to buy this note and my intent is to sell this note or trade this note. So I'm going to say that my rate for the money that I would invest, 15, I want to put 15 in the interest rate because that's my discount rate, and then I'll solve for present value. I could pay $43,000 for this note and I would make 15% on my money, but I don't want to hold this note. So I'm going to buy the note for $43,000. I'm going to turn right around and I'm going to sell it for a 12% rate. So let's see what 12% is again. That's 51,000. So I made the difference from 43 to 51. I made $8,000 being the broker on the note. But let's say that I come across an investor that says, hey, I would love to make 10%. I'm only making 1% right now, or 0.5%, or my money's tied up in an IRA and I'd like to get it out and put it to work. So I'm comfortable with 10%. So let's see what 10% is. I could sell the note for $58,000. Now, if I bought it for 43, and the difference, the arbitrage is 58, so that's $15,000. So you can see how that you can buy, sell, and trade promissory notes. And you can create a promissory note and buy, sell, and trade that promissory note. Now, I have no idea what this lady would sell this note for. Actually, I'm just saying here is the process that I go through to look at promissory notes. And I get these in the email of people wanting to sell promissory notes. And this is just one part of the due diligence. And then there's a whole big process of due diligence behind that note to make sure that your money that you put out is protected, and that's called protected equity. So don't want to lose that money because you're acting as the bank and you want to protect your equity and be able to make a profit. If you have a promissory note that you would like to sell, then you can email me, and let me put my email up there and I will respond to your email. If you would like to sell the note, then I could probably help you sell the note depending on the discount rate that you're willing to receive. And we can probably do some due diligence and help you decide what that note is really worth. So my information is on the screen, and I thank you for watching this broadcast. And this is one of 300 ways to buy, sell, and trade real estate. And there are over 300 ways to do it. And this is the other side of the physical property, which is the financial side, which to me is just about as interesting as the physical side. So those two sides of an investment property is what I deal with. And if you would like to know more about how we deal and what we can do for you, then email me at info@montrosecommercial.com. And thanks for watching.